Now, can we kill our opponent this next turn? That's the real question. The answer appears to be yes. Hey everyone, Raptor Spank here. Today we have another episode of On the Grind, the show where I cover a deck I'm playing in Ranked. I'll break down the deck as well as a couple of flex spots. Then we'll put it through some Ranked matches and review how we do afterwards. This episode we'll be playing BD Bannerscouts and seeing how it does in the post-patch meta. Bannerscouts is a mid-range deck that focuses on establishing a strong board presence and maintaining it. Let's start with the champion package. This starts with 3 copies of Misfortune, a 3-cost 3/3. When allies attack, deal 1 to all battling enemies and the enemy nexus. Level up, I've seen you attack 4 times, then she becomes a 4/4 with Overwhelm, and she deals 1 3 times. Her champion spell, Make It Rain, is a 2-cost fast spell. Deal 1 3 times among different randomly targeted enemies and the enemy nexus. This is basically the penultimate finisher for the deck, because if you can level up Misfortune, you're pretty likely to win from that point out. It's a very rough board state for that to not be lethal. She's extremely aggressive and forces damage through and establishes poor blocks through the 1 damage to all battling enemies. Chump blockers, they're not going to want to block with since they'll just lose it for essentially no value, and as long as you attack every turn, you're still going to deal damage to your opponent every turn. And this works really well with things like Fleet Feather or Valor, because they can get, in a sense, free kills against things with 1 health, or can even trade up against things that have 3 health or more. And they force people to block, so even if your opponent doesn't want to take that trade, they're going to have to take that trade. So she enables those cards to be even better than they already are, and they're already amazing cards. And then Make It Rain can also make her attacks even better too by dealing 1 damage to the enemy, and then her trigger hits again. That means anything with like 2 health or lower just gets wiped out without being able to even deal any damage to your units. So her champion spell is actually not too bad for the deck as well. Next up, we have 3 copies of Quinn, a 5-cost 3/4 with Scout. When I'm summoned, summon Valor. Level up, I've seen you attack 4 times. She becomes a 4/5, and every time she attacks, she summons Valor, challenging the strongest enemy. Her champion spell, Blinding Assault, is a 2-cost slow spell that summons Valor. This is a fairly strong Scout unit that levels easily. It levels the same way as Misfortune, so our deck's already looking to do that and has a number of ways to accomplish this even quicker than normal. So that just works pretty well. And then since she curves up after Misfortune, she's really good at making sure your Misfortune levels up on your second attack turn, essentially, from after playing her. So there's that benefits in a great way, but just in general too, she's actually a pretty good value because there's 2 units for the cost of 1. So she fits our go wide strategy pretty well. Her 3/4 body's not that bad. It's kind of hard for our opponent to trade with that, so she can get in some good attacks, and Valor is just as good as Fleet Feather. So it can force bad blocks with Misfortune triggers. It can pull the biggest thing away so that can't kill our higher value units. So she just basically helps us continue to maintain board control in a strong way while also leveling up Misfortune quickly. Next, let's look at the follower package. This starts with 3 copies of Cytherea of Cloudfield, a 1-cost 2/2. Not a whole lot to say about this, just great power and health for the low cost, so it's just a really cheap and aggressive unit that's pretty hard to match. Then we have 3 copies of Fleet Feather Tracker, a 1-cost 2/1. When you summon another ally, grant me Challenger. This is cheap and aggressive as well for Cytherea. It does die a little bit easier, but as we talked about, this combos really well with Misfortune, War Chefs, Bright Steel Protector. All of these things work really well with Fleet Feather to ensure that you're dealing damage without losing your Fleet Feather, or just trading it in for something far, far better, or just in general setting up really poor blocks for your opponent, forcing through lethal by pulling their biggest unit away, something like that, etc. Then we have 3 copies of Bright Steel Protector, a 2-cost 3/2. Play, give an ally barrier this round. This is also cheap, high-powered unit, and it can block Fearsome if we're playing into a matchup where that matters. And this protects your high-value units like Misfortune and Fleet Feather, since it gives them barrier for the round, so you can use it on the defensive to keep your Misfortune alive. You can use it on the offense to keep your Fleet Feather alive while killing one of your opponent's units. It's just a pretty good versatile card that doesn't cost too much mana. Then we have 3 copies of War Chefs. The 2-cost 1/3 support. Give my supported ally +1/+1 this round. This is also great value for cost. It used to be even better, but still a 1/3 for only 2 is not bad, and it boosts other units so that increases their damage output. So it can be used to protect or boost damage because Fleet Feather, for example, can eat something with 1 health now because War Chefs will give it 2 health. So even without a Misfortune, you can start getting good attacks for yourself. And since the buff will go away anyways, there's no loss to this essentially, and you can use it to spread your damage profile out more. So if, say, you're attacking with like a Cythria, a Bannerman, and War Chefs, your opponent's going to want to block the Bannerman anyways because it's your biggest unit. So if you buff Cythria, now you have 2 3/3s, so your opponent has a harder time really effectively blocking. So it lets you spread out that damage better. The nerfs should take more damage now for War Chefs when they attack because your opponent's going to be a lot more likely to block War Chefs now that it doesn't trade with a lot of things. Like, for example, it used to trade with the 3/2 from Noxus. Now that would be brutal for us because we swing into it and they would have taken that trade anyways, but now they don't even trade. They just eat War Chefs, so it's a little bit rough with 1 less power, but I still think it's a solid include in the deck because of how it buffs other units, and 3 health makes it very hard to kill it. So it didn't really matter the size of the War Chef's body before. I could see the point or 2 mattering over the long run for trying to kill our opponents. So it's definitely something to keep an eye on, but we'll see how it does in our matches. Then we have 3 copies of Petty Officer, a 3-cost 3/2, play, summon a Powder Keg, or a random 1-cost follower. This is a high damage body that comes with a second unit, so it does our whole go-wise strategy we're looking for, and also has a lot of raw power in and of itself. And then it's a great unit for blocking as well, since it'll trade with most things. And now, Powder Keg can be used to boost a Misfortune trigger or, say, a Make It Rain, but this is a really, really fringe case. We're almost always going to want to use this for the 1-drop unit instead, because what our deck is trying to do is just establish a better board presence than our opponent and use that to win. So generally speaking, we're going to want the extra unit over boosting it, but it is something to keep in mind because that could make all the difference in the end, especially off like a Misfortune trigger. Then we have 3 copies of Grizzled Ranger, the 4-cost 3/1 with Scout. Last breath, summon a loyal Badger Bear. This is a resilient threat since even if it gets killed, you still get a unit out of it, so you don't really go down on board presence. And this follows Misfortune on curve and benefits her greatly since that can give you 2 attacks per turn now. So optimally, if we're attacking on turn 4, we go turn 3 Misfortune, turn 4 Grizzled Ranger, swing with them, then swing with them again, and now we've got her halfway to leveling up. And if we have, like, say, a Relentless Pursuit, then on turn 5, we've already leveled our Misfortune up, and that's crazy. So this card just really, really just goes perfectly with Misfortune and what we're trying to do. And then, just in general, it trades with most blockers, so it kind of discourages blocks. If your opponent's got like a 1/1, they might throw it in front of him, but otherwise, since he kills something and then you still get a big body out of it, in fact, you get a better one out of it, people will often not block it, even though they really should, because Scout means it's really good for our deck and it's going to level up our Misfortune. But because of the fact that it's kind of a one-sided effect, a lot of people won't really want to block it, so that's something we can use to our advantage. Then we have 3 copies of Vanguard Bannerman, the 4-cost 3/3 with Allegiance, grant other allies +1/+1. This is the titular card of the deck, and basically the whole concept that our deck is built around. Since it buffs all of our other units, and +1/+1's actually a lot more sizable than it sounds, and this is a permanent buff, not a buff for the round. So this really just leverages our go wide strategy of our deck to push all of those units just that one more level ahead, and often that'll be the difference between whether our opponent could set up favorable blocks or not. So this is really the card that this deck is built around. And the boost can often just make our units go from manageable to extremely threatening on their own. It has a strong body itself with 3/3. It's just all around a great include. Then finally, we have 3 copies of Genevieve Elmhart, the 6-cost 5/5 with Scout and Challenger. When summoned, give other allies +1/+1 this round. This is kind of our big finisher since it can attack multiple times. It buffs our entire board like Bannerman does, and it only lasts 1 turn, but often at turn 6, we're looking to kind of win at this point anyways, so that's usually not a huge huge deal. And because she has Scout, she can level Misfortune or Quinn up, and Challenger lets her attack optimally. Like, even if you know that you're going to trade her in with something that has 5 health, you can always swing, grab one of the smaller units, kill that, and then on the next attack, pull the 5 cost and trade. So she really helps you set up extremely good attacks for yourself. And again, the board boost leverages our wide board. Now let's look at the spell package. This starts with 2 copies of Ranger's Resolve, a 1-cost burst spell. Give all allies tough this round. Again, this is all about board control. This whole deck just wants to keep having more units than our opponent and bigger units than our opponent. And Ranger's Resolve really helps to accomplish that, because oftentimes we'll swing with a huge board. Our opponent will try to set up perfect blocks to kill as many of our things as possible, and then we Ranger's Resolve, and suddenly we lose nothing and they lose everything. It's devastating, let alone the fact that it can just really save things in a pinch. If, say, Misfortune's about to take 3 damage, we can save her with that. It's just a pretty versatile card that just definitely benefits our overall game plan. Then we have 3 copies of Single Combat. The 2-cost Fast Spell. An ally and an enemy strike each other. This is our spell-based removal. We have challengers for removal primarily, but this gives us another answer to things that we might not be able to kill with challengers. So it's just our way to deal with our opponent's threats that are too big to deal with otherwise, or too difficult to deal with otherwise, and we can use this often to basically as a one-sided removal. Since we have such large units in this deck, then often we can kill something without even losing our unit. But worst case scenario, we can always just use it on, say, a doomed unit that's guaranteed to die no matter what happens. Either they've done enough damage that's going to die, or the way that they did blocks it's going to die or something. We can use it with that unit to kill something specific with it, instead of just having it die to whatever our opponent wants it to die to. Then we have 2 copies of Relentless Pursuit, the 3-cost slow spell, Rally. This just lets us be a mid-range deck and also have an incredibly fast kill. This is why the deck can often win by turn 6 or even earlier. So this just really surprises our opponents oftentimes out of nowhere, and we just come out and win when they think they've just bought themselves enough time, and then you cast this and it's all over. And if you use it on your opponent's turn while having a scout unit out, you'll even get 2 attacks instead of 1 out of it. So this can be used to level our Misfortune incredibly quickly, faster than our opponent's really expecting or prepared for example. And it can often just win the game out of nowhere because of just a huge board, and then attack once, attack twice, attack 3 times. It gets crazy quick. Then we have 2 copies of Riposte, the 4-cost burst spell. Give an ally +3/+0 and barrier this round. This is primarily a protection spell to preserve our big units, our major threats like particularly Misfortune, but even could be used with things like Quinn, Flea Feather, War Chefs, etc. Because of barrier, this means it'll be very hard for our opponent to kill, and we can even use it often to trade with things that would be outside of our unit's scope because of the +3. And, of course, you could always use this spell on the offense if your opponent doesn't block something, or you've got a Misfortune that has Overwhelm. You can just pump that little extra bit of damage through, and it will win you some games out of nowhere. Finally, we have 1 copy of Back-to-Back, the 6-cost burst spell, to give 2 allies +3/+3 this round. It's a flexible but expensive pump spell. It can be used on the defense, it can be used on offense. It will often be used for protection, but you shouldn't be afraid to steal a win with it. But definitely when it's at its best is when your opponent swings in or is going a little bit faster than you, and you can pump 2 of your units and block with both of them while keeping them alive. Or if, say, like your opponent does, like, say, plays a Thresh and tries to kill your Misfortune with it, now not only does Misfortune not die, she actually kills Thresh. It can create some pretty optimal plays for us. But again, at 6 mana, it's really hard for us to pull that off. We usually don't want to be spending that much mana on a spell since we're trying to establish a big board presence. But it's just so good in the moments you want it that a 1 of copy for the right matchups is pretty big. Now let's look at the flex spots. There's a couple of things you can do. Obviously, you could play with some of the numbers. You want to maintain about the same number of units. You don't really want to go up in spells with this deck, because like I said, the whole point is to build up this big board. Once we stop dropping units and going up spells, it's a lot harder to do that or do that consistently. But you can always drop, say, a back-to-back for a third Relentless Pursuit. You can add or cut Riposte to up things like Relentless Pursuit or Ranger's Resolve, etc. You can cut the riposte for 1 to 2 concerted strikes. The 5 cost fast spell, pick an enemy, 2 allies strike it. This adds more removal, but can also be used to protect your units by killing something that's going to be a threat. Like if they have a challenger and they challenge for Misfortune, you can concerted strike to kill that challenger and save Misfortune. It's weaker to deny Spell Shield and Frostbite though, which is kind of why we don't go with it, because Barrier from Riposte is going to protect through all 3 of those things, whereas obviously this won't work through that, let alone the fact that like just raw kill spells and stuff will still work. So Riposte covers more bases than Concerted Strike, but there's definitely justification for switching the two. You can also replace Quinn with 1 to 3 copies of Garen. Like maybe you just cut 1 Quinn and put a 1 of Garen in, or maybe you pull the whole playset out and put a playset of Garen's in. He's the 5 cost 5/5 with regeneration. He levels up when he's struck twice. Then he becomes a 6/6, and on the round start he rallies. He has a slightly harder time leveling Misfortune, but he can still do it since he does rally every turn. It's just he doesn't have Scout, so he doesn't get the double attack per turn. And because he doesn't have Valor challenging things, you can't really set up blocks how you want them to be. But he has a much stronger body, and with regeneration, he's going to keep recovering. So he's just kind of a classic Bannerman staple that you can use to boost the mid-game of the deck. You can also cut some spells, Riposte plus back-to-back for 3 copies of Jagged Butcher. The one costs 2/2, Plunder, grant me +1/+1. This boosts our early game with almost, basically with almost a guaranteed turn 1 play, which is ideal for us. And then you do not need / shouldn't wait for Plunder, because just a 1 mana 2/2, we have plenty of those in the deck, or 2 power units in the deck for 1 mana, so that's already fine. Like we're okay with that. And sometimes if you can get Plunder, it's fine, but you really shouldn't be looking for it. But this will make our deck faster. The big downside is that it does increase our Bannerman's chance of missing, which if you ever play Bannerman and he doesn't buff your units, it's disastrous for your deck. So you want to avoid that as much as possible, but this was a staple of Bannerscouts. It can definitely still be run in the deck, so it is a consideration to make. This is a much more important choice going forward because of what was mentioned in the patch notes, but you can replace Petty Officer with 3 copies of Laurent Protege, the 2/4 or 3 cost 2/4 with Challenger. It's a stronger single body, and more challengers helps to really push Misfortune's skill, since you can set up blocks how you want them to be. And it's even better use of Bannerman, since this challenger that can survive most fights, getting in another buff on top of that will make it even better. So this is a very threatening card. The problem is, since we are a go wide deck that wants to establish a big board presence, Petty Officer is generally going to be better for us. But that said, they mentioned in the patch notes that they're going to be looking, or they mentioned on Twitter, it was one of the two, they mentioned about looking to change Petty Officer, something about him in the next patch. So there's a very good chance he's going to get nerfed, in which case Laurent Protege might be the best in slot for that going forward. So this is definitely a flex to keep an eye on into the future. Right now, Petty Officer I think is better, but I could definitely see that changing in the near future. And then finally, you can always drop the Riposte and back-to-back for 3 copies of Cithri the Bold. The 6 cost 6/6 attack, give other battling allies +1/+1 and fearsome this round. This is the best late game card we could really have, to be quite honest, since it buffs our entire board every time she attacks, gives them fearsome, so it's extremely hard to block them, or chump block them at the very least. And she's a massive body on her own too at a 6/6. The problem with this is that then you go up to even more 6 cost spells or 6 cost units with Genevieve, so it can strand you with some really bad starting hands, because we really want to curve well and establish a board presence. But now you could be like Genevieve, Cithria, and then you're like pretty much doomed at that point no matter what the matchup is. So that's a little bit scarier, and it leaves you with less protection for your big units like Misfortune and all that, so that can be a downside too. But it does give you a much stronger late game, so if you are getting to the late game pretty often, this is definitely something you could consider, and it's been a staple of Bannerman for quite a while, so it's definitely a legitimate choice if you would want to go that route and make your top end a little bit stronger. And that's the deck for this episode. You can find the deck code in the description below if you want to take it out for a spin yourself. Now let's jump into some ranked matches. Okay, so Ender tokens here. Or well, Ender Callista, kind of new variant. It's tokens is probably not the way to call it, but yeah, Ender aggro. We'll definitely pitch these two for sure. We're looking to establish board presence fast. Cytherea plus Petty Officer are great finds for us. But we're hoping for, yeah, a little more early aggression. Backup Cythereas will help. And we just have to hope that our opponent's hand is kind of slow. I want to say it's a fairly good matchup for us, but if they have the Ravenous Butcher, we're in trouble.
New recruit reporting in.
We at least break their turn 1. So we'll play Cytherea here. I suppose no matter what, this is a good attack for us. Ooh, and we have Misfortune to Grizzle Ranger now. That's very good. Okay, so now they'll probably block. That's actually bad for us then, isn't it? Alright, so we'll swing with 1. Because he'll probably throw Warden's Prey in front of it. If we swung with both, we would lose 1 Cytherea and not even kill the Bark Beast, so I suppose there's an argument to be made for not swinging in the first place, but there's so much they can do with a unit like that that it's really not good for us to let him keep units into the next turns. Because, like, he doesn't want to play Bladed Caretaker and sack the Bark Beast. Oh, man, if he has the Ravenous Butcher, we are in trouble. Yeah, I mean, we'll take the damage. Doesn't seem to have it. Not yet, anyways. But this could definitely get scary quick. This Fleet Feather will be good eventually. But we're definitely trying to level this Misfortune as fast as we can. So this is definitely a spot where we have to play Grizzle Ranger. Yep, that's rough. That's very rough, in fact. On the bright side, anything that blocks will die to this Grizzled Ranger, but if he has, like, I mean, most don't play Callista's Spear in the main board, like just raw copies of it. They usually have to have Callista out to cast it. But if our opponent is running that, they can kill the Misfortune, and if they do, this game is basically over. That's really weird that they won't take the trade.
Lady Elise, where are you?
Yeah, these will kill anything that blocks them too.
Please, I have connection.
So I think we're willing to trade these in for any of those. I don't think my opponent's willing to make that same trade. Oh, wow, they are. That's ideal, to be quite honest. That is ideal. Yeah, we're fine with this. I mean, yeah, we're gonna take a bit of a hit on the backswing now that we don't have many blockers. But I mean, we can block with Grizzled Ranger. We're fine with that. We have Quinn, so we can definitely level up Misfortune on the following turn, no matter what happens.
What could have been?
All right, so we'll see what our opponent does, and that's gonna determine what we do this turn. Ooh, maybe we don't even play the Quinn. Maybe we play Genevieve next turn. Because we can Quinn this turn and just set up a great Scout Swing the next turn. Ah, that's what I was wondering. I had a feeling our opponent was going to have Bladed Caretaker. In which case, the best play here is definitely to bury your Misfortune. Just to make sure that we can't take damage. Also, chances are we'll play this Fleet Feather. We'll see, though. I don't think... Yeah, I didn't think our opponent was going to be willing to attack any other way. Now, do we play the Petty Officer or do we play Fleet Feather? I think we'll play Petty Officer. Because Genevieve... We're gonna go Petty Officer into Genevieve. Oh, my. Well, that was lucky. That was legitimately the best find in our entire deck. Alright. Play the Genevieve. We're set up to level up Misfortune unless he has some sort of answer. Atrocity sacking Escaped Abomination would do it, but then he's down to only 2 mana this turn, and we might just kill him off of that. Okay, that's perfect. So we'll just take the free attack here. So he has another Wraith Caller in hand. Okay.
My sack ladies.
Oh, this is actually perfect. Because Misfortune Trigger will kill all of these. So, yeah, we'll just swing like this. Swing the board. We'll pull all of these. I think. Actually, what? I guess we have to kill these. And hope that our opponent doesn't have, like, Fury of the North Wraith Caller to kill Misfortune. I think that's still good for us, though, even if they go for that. So, that's why we're willing to lose her here. And we have to make sure his board is clear going into next turn. Alright, perfect. Wipe our opponent's board. They Who Endure is the scariest thing that could come next turn. Man, if only we had Relentless Pursuit. We will pretty much throw anything in front of a They Who Endure just to reduce the damage we take. How big is it? 13, 13. So if we block that, we take 8 down to 8. Yeah, that's scary. Yeah, if he has Atrocity, we will just die. Nothing we could do about that. Man, Bannerman would have been so good right here. Bannerman or another Genevieve. Because we really needed to be able to block. Well, I mean, I guess it's not much more than that. I wouldn't have done that much more. Interesting. Okay. This would have also been a great turn for Relentless Pursuit, because obviously that would have won the game for us too. I think our opponent has Atrocity and we're just dead here, but... Nope, let's find out. Oh! I guess not. There we go. Alright. We will take that.
Fortune smiles.
Alright, well. Looks like a Trundle ramp control deck, except running Thresh instead of some of the other payoffs. So then obviously what we want is we want to go as fast as possible. Which is weird then, but I may actually keep the full grip here. All of these cards are pretty strong cards for us. Petty Officer plus Bannerman is a great combo. War Chefs just lets us play something on a curve that's good. And if they have the ramp turn 4, they don't attack turn 4 anyway, so we could play the Bannerman. And then Riposte is great against Trundle specifically. So I think we just keep this. We'll keep the whole hand. Ideally, we'd pull a 1-drop here, but, you know, Alright. I mean, that'll happen. So that was ideal, is what what we call that. That was ideal. Ah, he did have the answer. That sucks. I mean, I guess that means it would have died anyways, but we obviously would have liked to kill an Omen Hawk. Well, we didn't count on the 1-drop being in that hand anyways, so it's not a huge loss. We will 100% block this Omen Hawk. Okay. Alright, so this is not a ramp deck. This cannot possibly be a ramp deck. This is weird. I don't really know what to call what our opponent is doing, but it's definitely not a ramp deck. Well, they don't have a board wipe this turn, so we can actually play this Bannerman. Alright. Thank God that hit. That would have been rough if it didn't. See what our opponent's got. Avaros and Sentry. Okay, so it can trade with a 3 health unit. Oof. And the fact that that is a Stalking Shadows copy is brutal for us. Well, what do we want to save then? I guess we'll push Bannerman through here. Swing like this, he'll trade with Petty Officer and then probably chump the Bannerman. We get 4 damage through and lose 1 unit. That's not too bad. Problem is our opponent's going to draw a ton of cards off this, and they have another 3-2 in their hand, which we already know about, so that is problematic. Yep, there it is. Now, biggest concern here is a Thresh this turn. That is not the concern, though we do know now that they have a 8-cost card in hand. Guess we play Grizzled Ranger and we bank the 1. Yeah, we'll take 3. We're ahead of our opponent in life, so... Okay. This is a very weird deck. However, I really do not like where we are at right now. I think our opponent is in a very, very good spot. This riposte could be good to kill this Ravager. Now the question is, do we just pop it immediately? I think we actually will. Our opponent can't Vengeance, so the most they can do is just pop the barrier off it, which we're fine with that, because then we still kill Troll Ravager. Okay. That's a little less fortunate. Okay, so we hit it. Now, let's see what our opponent does. Okay. I think this is one of those spots where we are going to immediately fight that. Because I can't pull it. So yeah, we just want to make sure it dies. And we are definitely willing to lose our Grizzled Ranger for that. Regeneration makes it actually a problem for us going forward, so... Alright, we'll swing like that.
Can't fight on an empty stomach.
See how our opponent wants to do this. The only thing they can kill for sure is Hapless Aristocrat, but yeah, it makes the most sense to put a ton of damage into our War Chef since they can do that for free. That's a curious one, but I guess I could see that. Because we'll still get a Spider out of it, but I mean, the Spider is worse than the 2-2. But they take a lot here. And they still don't have Ruination yet. Good chance we're going to want to riposte this turn, but it depends on what our opponent does. I can't play Quinn and riposte. I guess we run out the Petty Officer then. That is an interesting card. Okay, yep, that is concerning. So we're going to want to kill one of those. I guess Old Ones is the worst card for us, so... I mean, chumping doesn't really do much, does it? Yeah, I guess we'll block like this and just kill that. Now, can we kill our opponent this next turn? That's the real question. The answer appears to be yes. So, what we can do this, this, like that. That threatens lethal. We're trying to spread our damage profile out as much as possible. Okay, that has our opponent still dead. So they have to use what they've got.
Tread carefully.
Still dead. See what they go for. Vengeance. Perfect. Now they're out of mana, so we just pump 2 things and we win. Yeah, they're in there. Yep, that's lethal. Good game. Back to back. That's what's in the deck for. That was a turn where pretty much nothing else guarantees us the win. They had Ruination mana, and a bunch of big creatures. We knew they had big things in hand because they obviously had some that cost 8+ mana. Could have been Ruination, in fact. So, like, we needed attack right away. That was the turn for back-to-back. And War Chefs definitely didn't seem to slow us down any with 1 less power. So that was a pretty good hand, pretty good curve out, and the riposte and back-to-back were huge. All right, game number 3 here, and it looks like it's going to be against support. This matchup's a little scary because they're also pretty fast, but typically speaking, I win this matchup, or we're favored in this matchup. We definitely want a good curve out here. I think we pitched the Grizzled Ranger here, but I think this is a really good Bannerman hand again, just like the last game, so I think we keep this. We're definitely hoping for a 1-drop here. Yep, there we go. That's what we were hoping for. And it can slow our opponent down. I mean, it doesn't really matter if they play the Young Witch second, but I think we are going to play this War Chefs first, though. Ooh, Cythria, nice. I mean, it's going to be a while before we play this, but it's not a bad card. Yeah, so I think our opponent's going to play Young Witch here, but they don't want to play it into this Fleet Feather just killing it for free. Oh, no, it was War Chefs. I mean, I guess we killed the War Chefs, and for once it won't actually trade because of the nerf. That's actually a spot where War Chef nerf was better for us than anything else. Yeah, we'll play Petty Officer. Now the big ooh, that's one of the better 1-drops to get. Now the question is whether we want to. Okay, we'll block here. We won't block anything else. Oh, wow. So that was pretty good for us. I think we're still Bannerman this turn. Oh man, that's also great.
Raise the banner. Lift our spirits.
So we're gonna pull whatever their biggest threat is. Let's see what he plays. Fleet Feather is not that big of a deal. We'll go like this so that it can't kill our Petty Officer, and then we'll yank the Flower Child over and kill it. Big blowouts here, I guess, would be Ranger's Resolve. Single combat's kind of bad for us too. Riposte is kind of bad for us too, but we pushed a lot of damage through. So we're still ahead on tempo right now, and we can lose a unit here or there. So just having a Fleet Feather's not that scary. I mean, they're going to have other stuff to follow it up, and they can kill our units, so that is unfortunate, but ooh, that is very good. How do I want to do this? I think we're gonna go for maximum board state here. So we're gonna go Fleet Feather, Cythria, and leave Ranger's Resolve up, so they can't actually kill our stuff. And we'll block here to do max damage. And we'll play the Cythria. I suppose if he has Relentless Pursuit, that kind of sucks for us. But we could still kill the Shen, so that is still risky for him to go for. Oh, man. Well, now I think I have to run out this Misfortune, right? Especially with her at 4 power. I wanted to play Bannerman this turn, but that's just too good of a card. My opponent is definitely on the ropes now. Well, now we have to think. Because now we kind of want to pull this over. Yeah, I guess we're going to go like this. Yank her. Nothing kills Misfortune doing it this way. And we spread out the damage. Yeah, we'll do that. And the only way he damages Misfortune... Oh, I guess Riposte would work. Okay. Yep, we'll do that. Cythria the Bold will live, but nothing else does. And we should be able to block anything that he plays with Cythria pretty well. Good chance Misfortune will die this turn. A lot less of a chance with a riposte. Tempting to play Grizzled Ranger this turn, but I think we are looking to Bannerman. Yeah, we're gonna Bannerman.
Safeguard our citizens.
In case we have to block, because it's very easy for our opponent to do a ton of damage here. Especially if they have Relentless Pursuit.
Batter 'em.
Don't hold back.
No one goes hungry.
Okay. So that is a lot of damage. We will throw an Omen Hawk in front of that. Yeah, we'll throw an Omen Hawk in front of that. Right now we have lethal from Misfortune triggers, so we don't actually have to do much here. There's a Relentless Pursuit, okay. That's fine. It is getting a little scary here, though.
Stands in our way.
That would be bad of him. Okay, I mean, sure.
Do not
We wanted to kill that anyways, so... we'll block
Don't
like
get ahead of
that.
yourself.
Take the 6. We shouldn't die to anything here. Another Relentless Pursuit? Alright, GG. And that is game.
Honor guide me. My kind of party.
There we go. And that'll be the win. Yep, there we go. Nothing he could really do there. And I think he knew it was over as soon as he went for that second Relentless Pursuit, because, I mean, it's not like we're not going to block. We could block with any of those units, so even if we didn't have the riposte, we could have thrown away Cythria and still won the following turn. So I think our opponent knew it and was just playing out their hand because they had nothing else. Which, you know, gotta respect that. But either way, that brings us to a 3-0 so far, so 2 games to go. Alright, Deep Monsters. This ought to be interesting. I think we're favored in this matchup, but I don't know if I've played it this season. But I don't think anything's really changed that. Riposte is not that great. There's moments when it could be useful, but it's not that great. Single combat could be good for making sure we kill a Maokai. So maybe I'll keep the single combat, keep the War Chefs, keep the Bannermen, but we also kind of want to go fast. Alright, we'll pitch single combat. We really want to find a 1-drop. Oof. Well, at least we got that single combat, so... Ugh, this hand is looking bad. At least we bank a Ranger's Resolve. But, yeah, this hand is really, really bad. Oh, that's really unfortunate timing, too. I guess we run it out, but he's probably got a Thorny Toad this turn. And we don't want to... Ooh, okay, maybe not. We don't want to use Ranger's Resolve for anything except the most extreme circumstances. I'm glad we went with Fleet Feather that round, though, considering what our opponent ended up doing. Oh, that's unfortunate. Yeah, that's just unfortunate. Nothing we can do. Yeah. Alright. Oh, he loses the Hunters, at least. Now we're going to go Grizzled Ranger next turn, because Bannerman just pumping Fleet Feather is not even remotely worth it.
Alright, let's miss some folks.
Let's see what our opponent goes for. This is Withering Wail? Oh, the punish. See, this is what we want a Ranger's Resolve for. Alright, well, assuming he has no creatures, he's going to gain 2 and then go down 8.
I suppose.
Alright.
Here we go.
Now if we get the chance, we'll Bannerman next turn.
These isles will be cleansed.
Or will we? We'll go Petty Officer first. That's one of the better ones. Okay, that's good. That's good. Let's see what he goes for. We can riposte here, so we can always kill this. And that might actually be worth it. Yeah, we don't want to lose anything here if we can help it. If he has Vile Feast, that's fine. That just means he's burning more resources. And it's not, these posts are not getting better for us. That is something very important to stress, is that they are not getting any better.
One banner, one
Okay.
destiny.
Okay, so he's gonna go for that. Now the question is, I mean, I guess we kill Devourer of the Depths. Yeah, I guess we kill Devourer of the Depths here. So we still get our Badger Bear, and he loses this big blocker. Whereas if we attack, if we kill Maokai, which is what we really wanted to do, but if we do that, then we don't actually kill him, so we don't get our thing. And we really wanted to get our thing there. Yeah, I guess it's ideal to do it this way. Yeah, we'll go like that. Yep. Force our opponent to block one of the 3 powers with Maokai. I mean, I guess it doesn't really matter if we pull Maokai instead of Dredge Tossers. It's the same effect, but let's see what our opponent does this turn. That'll decide what we do. We kind of want to Quinn.
Vessel small, but she ain't lacking courage.
Okay. How much does Bannerman do for that? Not a ton. We'll just pass. I think we want to Quinn this turn. So he's going to try to kill multiple things. Surprise, surprise. We could riposte to save something. I think we're fine just letting it happen and playing Quinn. And then Quinn can kill Maokai next turn.
Nothing gets between me and my mark.
Unless he kills Valor right now. If he Withering Wails, that definitely sucks for us, but okay. No Withering Wail, at least. But that means he probably has a blocker. That's one of the scarier blockers he could have. Okay, so now we have to pull this. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this, we're going to pull that. Now he has to either take 3 damage or lose Maokai. Or use a Vengeance. Which, that's also fine for us. He can't Ruination. That's the good thing here. We can actually play everything in our hand, too, so that's kind of good. See what he's got. Okay, I think we win then. Yeah. I think we win. Yeah, we should. We should. We have enough damage. Unless he plays Dredge Tossers. Actually, yeah. So, he doesn't have enough blockers. That's the key. He doesn't have enough blockers. So then we will pull this over to here. And that should be game.
I cannot be broken.
That would be weird. Alright, yep, and that's game. There we go, 4-0 so far. Not bad. I figured this matchup was pretty good for us, but good to see that in practice. We're just our units are bigger than their removal can really deal with often, and we even had the hand where they could deal with it well, but we had the Rangers resolve, so the Withering Wail didn't do much. But just in general, they have a hard time dealing enough damage to kill our units because of how big they are, and we're aggressive, so it's the worst combo. We're kind of an aggro deck, at least in this matchup, we're the aggro deck, and they can't kill our units easily, so went well. On to the next. Well, a rematch against Endure, and this is definitely going to be a little more the classic Endure, running Elise as well from the look of it. Like I said last time, we just want to go bigger than them, and just, well, we might pitch this entire hand, actually. I don't really like Bright Steel Protector against their deck. I guess we keep it. We want to have something early game, but it's not particularly great against them. Them being on the attack turn 1 again is bad for us. Oh, we have Fleet Feather, though. Actually, Fleet Feather plus Bright Steel Protector is a great combo. We might not even do it, though. We might just play War Chefs instead. Because War Chefs is essentially like giving it Barrier against a Hapless Aristocrat. We'll go for it. This is a blowout for the Drain one, but well, not a blowout, but Vile Feast is obviously bad for us. Okay, well, doesn't seem to have it, or they're fine waiting, but obviously it's better for us if we kill this and then lose it, so... I suppose what could be worse for us in this case... Oh, maybe they're playing an Elise and they didn't want to run it into Fleet Feather. That would make sense. I don't know. Nothing, huh? That's weird. And now we can Petty Officer into Bannerman, which is probably what we're looking to do here. We'll see what our opponent does. Okay. Still see what they do. Bladed Caretaker means we'll at least wait before playing Petty Officer. Ooh, that's rough. On the bright side, we'll still... Ooh, that's pretty good. On the bright side, we'll still probably... Okay, that... Yeah, this is really good for our opponent. Things are definitely... This is the ideal spread for them, I would say. We'll definitely take that one. We don't want to lose any health, if we can help it. We are still definitely going to Bannerman this turn. The question is whether we're going to trade this Fleet Feather in for something or not. Okay.
I'll be quick.
What we're going to do in that case then is we're just going to get a free kill here while also dealing damage in the air. And this way we can set up optimal blocks. So we can eat the Mistwraith, because until he plays another Mistwraith, we can. I guess we're probably playing Brightsteel Protector this turn, because we do really want a Genevieve next turn. And we're definitely willing to trade stuff now, since we have another Petty Officer, and we can't really play it because our board is full. So we are definitely willing to make some trades now. Alright, the question is, what trades do we want to make? Yeah, I think that's probably the most well, we could lose one more unit. Alright. It's a little unfortunate to lose a Fleet Feather, but I think we can go for this. And no matter what... Okay, he's going to lose all three. Perfect. Alright, we'll play Petty Officer. And this way, we don't have to sacrifice anything to play this Genevieve. Ooh. Bark Beast isn't bad. We can kill that next turn, so we're also not that worried about Neverglade. Or not we can kill it, we will kill it next turn. I don't think our opponent really has a way in their deck to kill Genevieve on 6 mana. Oh, man, if we knew single combat was coming next, we would have absolutely banked that too, rather than play Brightsteel. That's tragic. What do they got? Haunted Relic. That's fine. Unfortunate, but it is fine. So, we'll kill this Neverglade. See if he sacks anything in response. Which is fine if he does. We're not that worried about it. This was the best possible place to pull an Elmheart. I guess in this case we will probably use War Chefs to pump Prowling Cutthroat, since he can't block it. And then we'll swing with everything else, and then Bark Beast, and we'll kill Mistwraith. Or try to kill Mistwraith. If he has Fury of the North, then, man, that sucks. Yeah, we're fine with this outcome. All of our stuff lives. His stuff dies. We get a fair bit of damage through. Obviously, the big concern here is a They Who Endure next turn. Okay, we're fine with that. Yeah, Bark Beast gets pumped. So, we're hoping our opponent hasn't found the They Who Endure. That's the big thing here. Okay, they have found They Who Endure. I don't think I can kill my opponent this turn. So
The quiet of the woods, there's nothing like it.
alright, so here's the question. Is blocking even worth it? I'll be at 11? I don't know that it is. Yeah, I don't think it is. If he has the atrocity, we're dead regardless. Okay. Guess we do kind of want to play this Elmheart first.
I'll defend these forests to the end.
See if he has it. He does. Well, that's game. Oh! Or not. Alright, might have been a premature GG. Just a little bit. Alright, we'll kill some units. If he doesn't have Atrocity, we will win. But there's no reason for him to slow roll it. So, I don't know. I don't know where we're at. I feel like they have it. But there was no reason not to use it. Yeah, okay, so they're just slow rolling it. Yeah, like I said, GG. Oh well. They didn't have it in the first game, but they had it that time. If they didn't have it, we were really set to win. Maybe we could have won if we Relentless Pursuited the previous turn. I don't think we had enough damage, though. I don't think no matter what we did, we were able to kill them. Maybe if we Pursuited plus single combat killed the spider? I'll have to look back at that one. It's possible we missed lethal that game. Maybe we did. What were they at? They were at a pretty high life total, though. That's the only problem. But they had their combo. So sometimes Ender has it, and if they do, there's very little they'll lose to at that point. So all in all, though, 4-1, that's pretty good. So I guess we'll jump into the wrap-up then. Alright, so in review, we went 4-1 in our matches. And in fact, my current total with the deck in this season right now is 36-17 for a 68% win rate. I went back and looked at Game 5, and we were actually 1 single point of damage short on winning the game if we had gone for the single combat Relentless Pursuit play. So nothing we could have really done that game. Unless I missed 1 point of damage earlier in the game, I'd have to go through and do the whole thing. But I think we played pretty well, and we just ended up getting unlucky to the They Who Endure Atrocity combo. That'll get you some games, so not too bad. I think that matchup's actually... I think it's a lot closer to 50-50, but I think it's still favored for Bannerscouts. I guess one of the big things we were looking to review with this is how the nerfs to Warchefs did, and I really don't think it's made a huge difference. It did cost us that Game 5. Like I said, we were a single point of damage short, so if that Warchefs had 1 more point of damage, that would have been lethal, because then we have that 1 extra point, because basically we kill the spider, then we Relentless Pursuit, and he can block 1 creature, and everything is 3 power, assuming we pump the Prowling Cutthroat, which is the right play, is pump that, and then everything has 3 power. He blocks 1 of the 3 powers, he takes 12 damage exactly, and he's dead. So definitely the Warchefs the nerf will lose you some games, like that one. That was one instance where it'll happen, but I still think overall the difference is pretty minimal, and I don't think there's anything else you want in the 2-drop spot rather than that, and I don't think you want to go up the curve. I think you want that many 2-drops. And I do think that it's better to run Warchefs than the 2-2 with Tough, for example, which is probably the next closest thing you could run. Because, yes, you get 1 more damage out of that, and it's tough, so it's hard to kill in that right. So it's kind of like Warchefs, but being able to give +1/+1 to a unit of your choice is actually pretty massive. As you saw many times, we'd use that for, like, say, Fleet Feather to keep it alive when it would have otherwise died. So that possibility, I think, makes Warchefs still better than any other 2-drop you could play. So I think what we found from this is that it's still a great card, and you should still run it in Bannerscouts if you're going to play Bannerscouts. I think it's still a great include in the deck, and just better than any of the alternatives. So definitely I would stick with that, and I still think the deck is going to be pretty good right now. I'm not sure how it's going to do into Lee Sin decks. That's still yet to be seen. I feel like we should be good, but I've only played against Lee Sin twice. One was, and both were Targon decks. And against Diana Lee Sin, we won that game pretty easily, comparatively. And then Karma Lee Sin, we were very close to winning, but our opponent was able to land the Lee Sin combo with a bunch of gems in hand from a mentor plus a gift giver, and so he was able to kill us from plus Zenith Blade, so he was able to kill us from 15-0 in a single turn. So if that's very consistent, if the deck can do that often, then we could definitely have trouble in the matchup, because that's just going to be hard for honestly any deck to win against. But I do think overall we should be favored into the Lee Sin decks, because I think, or not necessarily favored into the Lee Sin decks, we should be one of the best decks into the Lee Sin decks, because of the fact that essentially, I mean, I could see Ionia doing well into Lee Sin just to bounce the Lee Sin, but otherwise I think the best answer to that strategy is just to run them down quickly, and we are one of the best decks at doing that, aside from, I guess, Nox's Shadow Isles, but Nox's Shadow Isles and then potentially Endure, but I think Bannerscouts is as good as those matchups would be, so I think it's still in a good place going into the meta right now, so I think it's still definitely a deck to keep on your list and on your radar for decks to potentially play if you want to climb. Bannerscouts has been one of my most reliable climbing decks ever since it was even Bannerman every season, so it's definitely a pretty comfortable deck. Relentless Pursuit is a pretty great win out of nowhere card, and there's a lot of times that just breaking that symmetry can really devastate an opponent, and it's kind of hard to play around, so it's definitely a great card. I think it's a good include. Perhaps not including it last season was a mistake. I know a lot of people weren't running it, so I think that change has been overall good for the deck. I think it's still in a good place. I think I'm pretty happy with all of our card choices. I don't think any of the flex spots were ones I really would consider going with at the moment. I think we saw, especially in one of those matchups, just how good Riposte plus back-to-back was. And there was a handful of times that back-to-back was just good for us. There was a game against Karma Lee Sin. We ended up losing it, but essentially using back-to-back, we were able to kill two really critical units for our opponent. So I think it's still in a good spot. I think the back-to-back's still worth running, and I think the Ripostes are also good, so I don't think I would change anything up in that regard. And I think Ranger's Resolve still has a lot of potential and is still pretty strong. We saw a lot of places where that was pretty relevant. So I think this list is still one of the best you could run. I don't think I really would want to change up much with it. So I think it's in a good spot. I think it runs really well. I think its win rate is pretty strong, and I think it doesn't have too many just really unwinnable matchups, so it's definitely good if you want a deck where you can win most games you run into, even if you're unfavored. So I think the deck is really strong. I think it's worth checking out, so I did include the deck code in the description if anyone wants to play my list. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more videos just like it.